Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining our webinar today. It's a basic session. You can also think of it as an office hour session. It's called Getting Started on SingleStore, as you can see on your screen. Just a few disclaimers before we proceed with the session. Uh, that everyone right now is in a listen only mode currently, and to interact with us you can use the Zoom Q&A button which is present at the bottom of your console. And like we like keep an eye out on the chat console, because I will be adding all the links that you require to get started through that. And towards the end of the session we will have a dedicated Q&A session that Aasawari will be taking up. So as for the speaker, we have Aasawari, who has recently joined SingleStore and is a developer advocate here. She has very rich experiences when it comes to doing things around databases. And I think she has joined from MongoDB, so she has like great experiences in when it comes to SQL databases. And if there's any questions, she is here on the panel, and she can totally take them for you right now live. And we highly recommend signing up, because SingleStore gives up free $600 worth of free credits. And like they totally last for more than a year. Like I still have my credits. I joined the company 2 years ago. So that's there. And yeah, like Asavri, like please take it away. Before that, we have a few housekeeping slides. You can like either you can go through them, or like I can, whatever's okay.
Yeah, I can go through
All
it. My
right.
screen is
Okay.
visible, right?
Yes, it's visible. All right.
Okay.
Please take it, Sabri. And folks that are watching live, please keep an eye out. I'm now sending all the links in the chat. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Yukti. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to from where you're joining in. My name is Aasawari, and I am a developer advocate here at SingleStore. This is my first time doing a getting started on SingleStore with the webinars. So I hope you're here with me till the end, because in the later part of this presentation today, we would be exploring some of the great capabilities of SingleStore Helios platform. And the recommendation for you would be to follow along so that you can also learn to ingest the data, sign up, and let us know if you have any trouble doing some basic operations that we are going to try through the demo. So before we move on, here are some of the housekeeping rules that we keep for the webinars. Is Since you're already on listen only mode, your microphones will be muted. Please use the Q&A and the chatbot to have any of the questions that you have to get them answered. While you are answering any question or you're asking any question, we recommend and we ask you to be respectful of the chatbot. And the session is being recorded. The recording of this session of this entire office hours would be available on SingleStore's YouTube channel, and by the end you would get a post event email which would contain all the slides, the resources, and the links that would be shared throughout the presentation. If you have to miss the session in between, you can always go back to SingleStore's YouTube channel to visit this session. So before any further things, let's get started. Here are few of the links that Yukti would be sharing on the chat. So these are the links that gives you getting started to the documentations, to the SingleStore blogs that we do. You can also follow us on X, LinkedIn, and Instagram to know the latest updates on the product. So this is the pretty much agenda that we would be covering up today. First, in the first half, let's divide the presentation again into two halves. In the first half, where we would be talking about what is SingleStore, why should you use SingleStore, and who is SingleStore, how did it even come into picture. And then we would explore the capabilities and the architecture, the under the hood architecture that SingleStore follows. Once you know enough about the product, once you know enough what SingleStore does, we would get into the SingleStore's Helios platform, where we would do a simple demo of querying the data and explore the other options that are available on the Helios platform. So let's get started. So SingleStore has been on the ecosystem, on the database ecosystem for over a decade now. And over the decade, it has helped customers to scale their data from just a few GBs of data to TBs of data. The one example that you see on the screen is Adobe, where they had around 60 to 70 TBs of data, and we helped them with their customers. Around 3600 plus enterprise customers have been using SingleStore, have been exploring SingleStore through Adobe. Similarly, you have an example of Siemens, where we had around 100,000 concurrent users who have been using Siemens platform, and on the under the hood they were using SingleStore, where they could see a huge drop of query latency, where a lot of things in their entire existing ecosystem were reduced, and that led to a lower query response and a higher response, a higher speed of the query was being observed. So SingleStore has played a major role in building some enterprise level applications and reduced the need of having multiple systems into their system altogether. So, what is SingleStore? It is data in real time. It helps you build some modern applications. It helps you perform in app analytics. And with the generative AI world we have, it helps you create those GenAI applications with ease. Now, when I say modern applications, these are some of the applications that you use in your day to day life. These applications have a huge data streaming ingestion that is going on. So, continuous streaming of data has been going on in these modern applications, where on this data huge amount of analytics and is being performed to create something, a feature such as a recommendation system, for an example. So let's take Uber for an example, where there has been a constant development with huge volume of transaction of data that is being loaded. A huge data is being ingested into the system, and it also gives you those recommendations and performs the analytics. So these applications look very, very simple from the outer end, but internally they go through a lot, and SingleStore helps them to build these applications with ease. So in short, we could say that the SingleStore is the fastest data platform to create your applications, and it helps your application and perform analytics all at scale. So it helps you deal with data, be it JSON data, helps with the real-time ingest of data, a higher concurrency of data, and helps you build those great generative AI applications. It has the capability to integrate Python notebooks directly, perform vector search, perform full text search, hybrid search, all kind of search, and this is all done at scale. So SingleStore is not was not just invented yesterday. It has been into the system for around a decade, as I said. It was originally founded in 2011 as MemSQL, and over the years, from growing to from an just transactional database performing just transactional operation, it went into and it emerged and it evolved into performing some of the analytical operations as well. In 2017 and 18, it had the support to perform the vector search operation, the full text search operation, and with everything that has been done in all of the years, we have been able to build a company of 400 million with around 300 to 350 customers, more and more, which is growing each and every day. So these are the customers which are around the globe and have been using SingleStore for a very long time. Now you would probably have a question of why should you be using SingleStore, and this is a pretty much a very, very brief example of an enterprise level application which uses which just helps you explain why should you be using SingleStore. So let's take this example. Let's take this diagram for an example, where you have an end user who is using the application. So through the application, a continuous ingestion of data and querying of data has been going on. Now, while you are operating that application, while you're using that specific application, you would also need some of the caching. Now, for storing the caching data, we generally use a different caching database, which through which we could just store or we could just retrieve the most frequently accessed information. Now, when all of this transaction is happening from the OLTP database, there is also a continuous streaming of real-time data which is going on into these OLTP database. Now, let's think of a scenario where you want your application also to perform some of the analytics. Now, to perform those analytics, the transactional database is goes through an ETL operation where you perform ETL operations on the existing database to get some analytics data that you store it into an OLAP database. Now, let's again think of a scenario where the application grows and you think of building another feature into your enterprise level application where you're trying to do perform some full text search or just text search in your application, for which you use Elasticsearch. Now, let's say over the time you also have the need to develop another application or another feature to your application where you are trying also to use vector databases. Now, these vector databases help you to create those semantic searches for your application. I'm sorry, I'll just take a pause. Sorry. So with all of this all of this which is growing, I am so sorry for the disruption. I'll just begin again. Let's go back a little. This is where we were, and this is now the need of having different databases to build your enterprise level application. You can see you need a caching system, you need continuous ingestion of data, you need to perform Elasticsearch, you need to perform vector databases. So you need a huge amount of databases in your system to create one entire enterprise level application. Now, where does SingleStore helps you is SingleStore is a unified data platform that helps you build those intelligent applications. Now, it helps you perform those transactions, those analytics, and search all into one single place. So you can ingest your data from any of the sources that you see on the left of your screen. All the ETL operations is already performed, and then you can create those AI applications with ease using this entire unified data platform. Now, SingleStore has a very, very robust ecosystem where it has the support and connectors for any of the technologies that you see. So, if you have an application with Laravel or if you have an application with Node, for an example, if you already have a data, if you already have a data on any of let's say Oracle, for an example, and you want to move your data from Oracle to somewhere else to SingleStore, we also have the support for SingleStore Flow, which helps you migrate the data from any of these sources. So let's any of the technologies that you see on the screen, and if you know any technology or if you have any technology where you see SingleStore is not being supported, please feel free to reach out to us, and then we would help you to do those migration and to help you with the supported connectors. Now, what happens under the hood and what happens exactly when you store the data inside SingleStore or when you perform a query operations inside SingleStore? So let's say your data is getting ingested through the data pipelines. It goes into the memory and a faster ingestion is being performed. Now, under the hood, SingleStore uses the skip list technology or skip list indexing method to store the data. Now, it stores the data in the form of rows, and then you have persistent cache where if you want to perform some faster queries, it transforms the data, it creates, or you can create the data into different in a row store or a column store manner. And now if you want to perform those queries on this data that is being stored, you can perform all of them with ease. So on the right side of your screen, you can see a tree level diagram where on the leaf nodes, you see the data. This is where the data gets stored. And then you have the aggregator where all the data is being combined together and then it is being sent to the users. So we'll see a very, very detailed diagram of the query aggregation in the next slide. But this is how your entire from ingesting the data to the end of the user, from ingestion to how the data reaches to the user is seen. Now, as I was saying, single store's architecture is where you store the data on the leaf nodes. So leaf node is where you are going to store all of your data, and the data gets stored there. Now you have a master aggregator and also you have a master aggregator and also a child aggregator. There is only one master aggregator and there could be multiple child aggregators. These child aggregators combine the data from these leaf nodes and then perform all of the combines the data all together, sends it back to the load balancer, and that is how the data is being passed onto the application. So this is a very, very uh, higher level diagram of how your data is being queried from the leaf nodes to the application. And a very detailed diagram is what you see on the screen here. So you have leaf 1 and leaf 2. So in one availability group of the entire database, the data is being partitioned into different sections where your data is being stored. Now, each of the data that is being stored is also created as a are also replicated in the leaf 2. So if by any chance you lose your data on leaf 1, you could all still have the access to the data and your data is not lost. So then again, it goes back to the aggregator where aggregator combines all of your data together and sends the data back to the application. Now, we have already talked about this in very, very smaller words, in very, very fewer words, using the concept of universal storage, where data could be stored in a row store or in the column store manner. Now, row store is very, very efficient if you want to perform transactions on your data. If you want to have concurrent updates on your data, storing the data in a row store manner is the most efficient method. If you want to perform analytics on the data, and if you have a huge amount of data on which you want to perform those analytics, column store is what is always recommended, and always you should always go for the column store type of storage in your data. It reduces the data and compresses the data up to 80%. That helps you perform the queries in a much faster way and also perform the analytics in a better way. Now, as I said, you could perform the transactions and you could also perform the analytics on the data in the same place. So basically, single store is just one place where you could perform both of them all together, and you do not need two separate databases or different separate databases to perform OLTP or OLAP operations. Now, you would already have a question at this point, is how do we maintain the isolation in this case? What if the transaction that is happening here could also affect the analytics? What we recommend here is you create one database which is, or create one workspace which is only for your transactional operation, and another copy of it where you are going to perform the analytics. Now, just in that case, you just give the read only access where you are trying to perform the analytics, and once the analytics is done, you can just remove that entire workspace, and now you just have one workspace where all your transactions are happening. So that is how you maintain the isolation in your workspaces. Now, now, as I said, when you create a workspace, it has, let's say, when you create a workspace, you create in one specific availability zones. So each of the data that you have in one of the availability zone is also copied in another availability group. So this helps if one of the availability groups go down, you can still have the access to the data from the other availability group. Similarly, if one of the AZs go down, you still have the access to the data from the other AZ. This is multi-availability zone redundancy, where the data could also be copied into different availability zones. There is also a feature called smart DR, where in let's take an example of an AWS private network where you have where you have a data and it is connected through a private link. So if one of the regions go down, you could still have the data from the other region. So this uses the private link concept, and the data is secured at rest with the concept of CMAK. Now, we are going to talk about Helios in detail, but before going to the Helios platform, there are multiple deployment options that are available on SingleStore. The first is the managed one, which is where you could have multiple customers which are fully isolated, dedicated compute, and they are most secure. So if you see the diagram, there could be multiple customers inside a managed system. When you have a dedicated deployment option, you just have one dedicated space just for one customer. So it is for one single customer and it is fully isolated. All the computations is all dedicated to one single customer. There is also a feature in SingleStore. There's also a capability in SingleStore to bring your own cloud, where single where you have a single customer on your own data plane, and that is also fully isolated, and you have a dedicated compute, and also on top of it you get the shared responsibility feature on it. This is the cloud deployment models that we are talking about. We also have the on-prem data model, which is managed everything, the infrastructure, the database operation is all managed by the customer. Now let's get into the demo part of it, and I'll switch screens. I hope the screen is visible. So Yukti at this point would have shared the link to get your $600 credits for the Helios platform. If not, we'll share the link during the presentation, but by the time it is on your chat, please follow along. Once you create your organization, once you create your workspace, this is how your Helios platform should look like. Now we'll go through each and every option of this entire Helios platform and how does it help you to connect with your application. This is what we're going to see. So on your Helios platform, let's first look at the deployments. Now I already have a deployment created for myself. And now if I want to connect, there are different options. The first is the SQL editor, where you can perform all the SQL queries. You have CLI client, you have SQL ID, and then you can connect also your applications and your other BI tools as well. So let's take a quick example from how you can just use the SQL query editor. So let's say I already have it created somewhere. So you select the connection. Now let me select the database. My database is also selected. We'll just run show tables, and then we would just see what is there inside. Select star reviews from the reviews. So I have around 10K of data loaded into the system. So this is how your SQL query editor would work, where you could perform all your SQL queries from this SQL file itself. Let's go back to the deployment option. Now on the deployment option, you see all of these options. You also see how your databases are being connected. If you want to create a new database, you can just click on create database and then do it. You also have all the managed, or how do you manage this entire workspace? All the options on this are all available. If you want to create any access, the user management, what are the databases, if you want to apply any firewall security, and the other options are all available on this screen itself. Now let's look at the ingestion of data. Let's see if I want to load a specific data into my system. So it has different options. One is you can load directly a CSV file into the system, or you can load your data from SQL, MongoDB, Amazon S3, or if you want to use the SingleStore Flow, this helps you migrate the data. This is a no-code platform that helps you migrate the data directly from MySQL, Oracle, Postgres, into, and also Snowflake into SingleStore directly. So we'll take an example of just a load file in our case. Let's select our workspace. This is my workspace. This is my database. Since I have it already loaded, I'll just select this, click on open, and this is my database name. Click on upload file. Your CSV file would be uploading into the system, and this would create a pipeline for you. This pipeline has all the commands on how your data is being ingested into the system. So let's wait for a while because it already exists. Let's change the name. If not, yeah, okay. Let's create another database named demo getting started. And then at this case, let's try and upload the file. Okay. Let me choose another file. Let me choose another name. Let me see if I'm able to do it. If not, this is entirely the step that helps you load the data. It creates a pipeline, and then your data would be loaded inside your SingleStore. So the reviews 10K that I had, that I showed, select star from reviews 10K, that is how I have ingested the data. So this is an example of what I was showing. This is your entire data. Click on next, and you see the pipelines being created. So it first creates the table looking at how your data looks like, and then creates a pipeline, and it loads the data from your CSV file into the system. Now, since I already have it, I won't be creating it. Let's go back again. So on the ingestion platform, we have already seen how would you load the data, and also how would you be using the pipeline. So for me, the reviews 10K data, the pipeline is already created. Now, if I want to stop the pipeline, drop the pipeline, the options are all available from here. Now let's look at the other options that we have. First is the workspaces. It gives you an idea of all the workspaces that are being present inside your org, and then the databases example. So all the databases again that are all present inside your workspaces and inside your organization. You could see all the database name and on which cloud, if they are, what actions do you have, can you attach it, can you detach it, all the options you can see it from the database tab. The editor is what we have already seen, is the SQL editor, where you can perform all the SQL queries on this editor section. The next new section that we have is the AI, which is the first one is the analyst. So it helps you perform all of the operations in your general language. So let's say if you already have the data created, you need to create a domain, you need to create a session, and then you can just ask questions in your general language, and then it would create the SQL query for it on the background, and it would give you the data. So this is the analyst in very brief. If you want to know more about the analyst, we could do a separate demo, or we could do a separate webinar on how the analyst works and give you more details on that. The other one is the AI and the ML functions. Now, we have this new feature which is coming up on the Helios platform, which is AI functions and the ML functions that help you use all of these functions automatically inside the system. So at this point, I am assuming if you already know what vector embedding of this entire text information is, right? Now, let's go back to the editor in this case, and let's look at one of the reviews. So if I want to look at the data, this is how my data looks like. And this is the summary of the data, and it has a huge text. Now, if I want to create embeddings for each of these text, generally, when this is not available directly on your platform, you do it from the application end. let's say if you want to create a vector search application for your, or vector search feature for your application, you would generally pick each of the text from each of the rows, send it to OpenAI or any of the embedding model. Those will create the embeddings, then it will come back and store it into your database. Now, what if I say this is all very simply available all from the Helios platform? So let's go back to the AI ML functions and let's test one of it where we are just trying to input and select the embed text from one specific column. So let's try this. Go back here. Now I already have this pasted. Let me change the column name, and this time let me do summary, and let's put the table name as reviews 10K. Now, if I do this would help me create the embeddings for each of the summaries that were there inside the reviews 10K. Now, similarly, inside the this was the AI functions, and similarly, we have the ML functions. So if you want to use the ML functions, just click on install, and then let's do a quick install of the ML functions, and the ML functions would also be available to use them. So you can use these ML functions again to create those machine learning classifications and use directly inside your databases, and all is available inside your Helios platform itself. The other tab that we have is the container services, where let's see the first tab, which is your job. So if you want to have a cron job running and you want to schedule a cron job into your system, you can just go to jobs, click on schedule and create a scheduled job for your function. Now, another new feature that we have here is the Python UDFs. Now, these Python UDFs are nothing but your user-defined functions. If you want to use these functions directly into your SQL or directly into your applications. Now, let's say for an example, the text embedding that we saw was one such example of Python UDFs. Now, let's say for an example, if I have to create a new column inside my database to see if my customer is active or if the customer has an order placed or not. Now, based on the data that it is reading, it will directly create a new column with a Boolean value of yes or no. To do that, you can directly create those Python UDFs, call those Python UDFs directly into your SQL files, and all your data would be ready. And this is all very, very simple to use, or it could be done directly on your Helios platform itself. So let's say, let's create a new one, or let's use the same one if I have one. So let me create a new notebook, give this name as getting started. Oops. We create a new notebook. I'll name it as GS. Select Python UDFs and then click on create. Now you can create all of those Python UDFs into this notebooks and then integrate it with your existing databases. The last section is the monitoring section, where you can monitor your active queries. You can have a visual explanation of the queries that are running. So you could see what are the queries that are running. You could stop the query, you could start the query and see how much time it is being consuming. You could also see a visual representation of how your queries are being performed. Let's say if you have a huge query which has a huge nesting and into multiple layers, you could see a visual diagram of it and see how each of those queries are being performed. You also have historical monitoring to see how your data, how your workload has been performing, where in which case your application has more reads or in which case application has more writes. All of this monitoring could be seen directly on the Helios platform itself. So you don't need to have a new integration into your existing system to create all of this or to generate all of this, and the dependency of having multiple system attached to your existing system is also reduced, because everything that you need to create your enterprise level application is all available on the Helios platform. So let me know if you have any questions. This is what all I had for this demo and of all I had for the presentation. I'll look back into the questions.
All right, folks. So we are officially open for Q&A. Asawari, if there is one question for you, can you take a look, or like do you want me to read it out for you?
Can you read it out for me? I cannot actually see.
So the question reads out that, Asawari, you mentioned that we connect to your Power BI and application databases. Does that mean that there is no databases in SingleStore and SingleStore is just doing data aggregations? In other words, no database models inside SingleStore?
Could you elaborate on your question, please?
Basically, I think they're just trying to say that is SingleStore just capable of connecting, and can we not store data in SingleStore? I like, as per my interpretation, I think that's what it means.
So let me show you if I have the access to the BI tools, and then so if you want to connect to your Power BI or Tableau, this is how you can just make the connections. The server link and the port and the admin is all given, and then this is what you can directly put it into your Tableau application, and then connect your data to your if you already have a data in your Tableau, you could connect it with SingleStore. So it's not the case that SingleStore is not storing any databases at this point. This is how you are making the connection to with your Power BI application and connecting it with SingleStore, if that answers your question.
Actually,
And
they have added one more comment. So they have said data modeling to organize the data based on business processes. I think the question is related to that context.
I'll keep a note of this question, and then I can answer this question, or we can send. I keep your email, and then we'll explicitly send an answer to this question
That
over the
sounds
email, if that's good.
all right. So, you'll get a recording of the session, and down below there would be my email, and or you can also reply to that particular mail that you get, and we'll have an access to everything, and we can take care of those questions. So, all right. So they have sent their email
Yeah,
assignment.
I'll
I'm
take a
sending
note of
to you
it.
on Slack, and we can follow up from there on. Thanks so much for your question. We really appreciate it. And folks, if there's any other questions, we are totally open for answering them. And yeah, I think that's all we had for the session. So yeah. So if there's any feedback, any questions related to today's topic, if there's any ideas, if there's any projects you want to share with us that you're working upon, we'll be like very glad to, hear about them. And yeah, there's amazing sessions that are coming up. So stay tuned. I hope to see you all there, and keep an eye out for the recording of this session. All right. I'm Yukti, and one of my main jobs here at SingleStore is to bring these webinars to all of you. And my LinkedIn is always open. Asawari's LinkedIn is always open. If there's any questions regarding SingleStore, regarding webinars, we are always here. And yeah, that's it for today. And that's all I had from my end. Asawari, I think, do you have anything else?
No, I don't. The pricing question as well, I'll have to check with the sales folks, and then I'll get back to you. If you have any more questions, please feel free to write us on the same email, or you can send us a message on LinkedIn, and then we would follow back on like helping you with your questions.
I mean, I can tell one thing that, initially SingleStore offers $600 worth of free credits, and you can always utilize the intercom, and they actually take care of any free credits that you might require to evaluate SingleStore. So that's definitely there, and the pricing depends on the credit usage. So that's like that's something that needs some discussion, and we can't exactly make a comment right there. So yeah, Asawari will make sure that they get some communication from us, and they can
Yeah.
get more clarity. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, and yeah, have a great rest of the day, great rest of the night, everyone, and thanks for joining. Take care, everyone. Bye.